the next thing we're going to talk about is sectioning. So what I want you to do is go to your viewpoint tab. Okay, and I just turned mine off, so you guys need to turn it off too. There's a button called enable sectioning. Go ahead and turn that off. Okay, and what this does is it basically just allows you to cut the building however you want to cut it. So if, like, let's say you've got a sequencing plan with your superintendent that is, I've got 5 areas, A, B, C, D, and E. You want to section your Navisworks model off to just show area A at a time, just show area B at a time, area C, D, and E. Okay. Now to do that, this is kind of the first assignment that we usually go into after talking about the syllabus and everything. So this might be kind of a quicker class. But to do that, we need to first turn off enable sectioning so you guys know where it is. Then we turn it back on. So you hit enable sectioning again, you get this section tool tab. So if you notice, before you turn it on, you don't have that tab. Like this, these tools up here, you won't have anywhere on your screen until you turn on your sectioning tool. Okay. Now with that sectioning tool, we have to do a couple things. We have to, if you hit this plane right here, it says current plane 1. There's a drop down that shows 6 different planes. Those 6 planes are the 6 sections of the view cube, right? So you got top, bottom, front, back, left, right. Okay, those are your 6 planes you get to work with. But the thing about the planes, you can turn one off and one on at a time. They don't have to all be on. They can all be off, but they don't see anything, right? So what I want you guys to do first is I basically just want you to go through and align plane 1 with top, plane 2 with bottom, and kind of work your way down the list. Okay. Now to do that, if you notice right here, there's plane 1, and right below it says alignment. It says top, and there's a drop down. So if I go plane 1 and I'm on plane 1 and I set it to top, it'll automatically set my plane 1 to top. Okay. Now I'll go through my list. I'll go down to 2. I'll change it to bottom. 3. I'll change it to front. 4. I'll change it to back. 5. And these should all be standard, but this is just to make sure. And 6. Change it to right. Okay. So now I know that, okay, while I go through my planes, I know if I'm on 1, it's top, 2 is bottom. And you get used to kind of what's what. And you can change it. Like if I wanted 1 to be bottom, I could make 1 bottom. I could make 2 right. It doesn't matter what they are as long as you remember which one's which. I usually just keep them in order. I have a couple other things with this. So if I turn off all my sectioning tools right now, it will only show me what I have cut off with 1. So right now, if everybody clicks the, let's say the southwest corner of my view cube, so turn off all your light bulbs. If you do the current plane 1 drop down, turn off all those light bulbs except for plane number 1. Okay. And then go to the southwest corner of the view cube and click that corner. And you should all see a very similar screen to mine. Okay. So if I turn off my section, so I got this current plane 1. If I turn my section off, now what it previously was cutting is now all of a sudden visible. Okay. So now the whole building is visible. And this is where setting your planes is really helpful to kind of know where they are. So right now my plane 1 is cut through the middle or the top portion of the building. If I don't want to see that anymore, I can just turn that plane off and everything shows. Okay, now there are 2 kind of tools you can do. So when you have a plane that is selected, that the light bulb is shown on, so it's actually showing. If you hit the move button right next to it, you'll have this pop up. Okay. Now the thing with this section plane, it works similar as like a section cut in Revit. As you move it, it will only show you what is shown below it. Okay. Green and red, they don't really matter. Yeah.
How do you make it so I can select the move?
So you can select the move. You can't select it from right here. You have to be on the plane.
So you're probably on plane 6 or.
So yeah, so you have to be on plane 1 that's turned on in order for it to show up, or another plane that's turned on. Okay. So the thing with these moves is green and red, they don't really do anything because all they do is they change it in your X and Y axis, and we're really focused on moving it in our Z axis. But your Z axis is always going to be the one that you move, no matter what. Okay. The reason why is because if I were to take this plane and I were to rotate it to my front side, right, and just take it 90 degrees, now my Z is still wanting to go up and down with that plane. So you're really always using your blue drag bar to change your elevation. So in this instance, if you just hover over the blue arrow, you'll get a little palm looking thing symbol, and then if you grab it, you can kind of drag your section down, and you'll see it slowly starts cutting the building further in half. Okay. And until you move that section, that's where it stayed for good. It's not going to move. Okay. The only time it will move is if you create what's called a saved viewpoint, which we'll get into here in a moment, where you can have a saved viewpoint of like a section off area. So I have area A, I save a viewpoint as area A, and it keeps all those properties of all those sections to one view. So if I go between A and B, my sections will change depending on what view I'm in. It's like a floor plan in Revit. Floor plan 2 is different than floor plan 1. Save viewpoint A is different than save viewpoint B. Okay. Then if I go turn plane 2 on, it'll be the bottom, right? I can adjust it to cut off a section on the bottom. Plane 2, plane 3. Okay. But a couple more tools that we need to go over first. There is a rotate. The rotate, I personally never use ever, and it doesn't really suit what I need for work. I can use it if I need to. If there's like a funky building at a 45-degree angle, like a roof slope at a 45, and I just want to cut into that roof, I can. There's an easier way to do it, which we'll get into here in a moment. But this one is just as simple. Now, with the rotate, you're not dealing with the arrows. You're actually dealing with these planes. So you notice I got a red one and a green one, and that is just going to determine which way that plane rotates, right? So if I click on that, let's say I click on the red one right now, it'll rotate to my south. So I click it and kind of drag with it. You'll see how that plane rotates, okay? That's all the rotating does. It's really not used for anything at all, to be honest. But now, with my plane rotated, I can change back to my move and adjust that plane in and out. And now it's going in and out at a 45-degree angle, okay? Another thing with the transforms, or sorry, not with the transforms, with the rotate, if you click on underneath the rotate button, there's a thing called transform. You click that down. This gives you exact measurements of what you want to do. So right now I've got it rotated at a 16.57 degree rotation. If I want to change that to a 90 degree rotation, I can just type it in, right? Instead of trying to, so if I know my roof slope is at a 55 degree, I can match that rotation by typing it in instead of trying to sit there and manually align it with my eyes. Okay. So for example here, I can come in, type in 55, and you'll notice it will rotate with whatever I type in. Okay. Same thing if I go here, let's go 40. Now it's rotating it twice, so it's going once here and once here. I recommend we never ever use this, but it is a tool. And then to reset it, you can just type it all out as zeros, which I would do right now if I were you. I would just reset that current plane 1 back to 0, and we'll do a rotation on the assignment here in a minute. Okay. So now it's all set back up to top. Okay. Now there's two more. Well, there's really several more tools that we're going to work with here in the sectioning. But you can link section planes. So what that means is I can link my section 1 and section 2 to go up and down with each other. So if I have a floor that is, I kind of want to draw it, it's not good for people online. If I have a floor that's 15 feet from slab on metal deck to slab on metal deck, like that's what the architect calls out as 15 feet. I can set my bottom section at 0 and my top section at 15. And if I move that, I know that that's one building length that I'm moving. So if I have a 6-story building, I can move that sectioning up and down. And I always know that once I hit the roof of one, that's like level 2, level 3, level 4, whatever that is. Okay. To do that, I would just have both your sections created or turned on. Okay. So plane 1, plane 2. And then right here, all you do is hit link section planes. That's all you do. Now, if you notice when I move, if I hit move again and I start to drag up, you'll notice as I drag up, the building will disappear and grow at the same time. Okay. You can also disband your sectioning planes and kind of lock it on the side of your screen. I usually don't, but some people do. They like to be able to see what's turned on and what's turned off. All I did to do that is the little plane settings right here. I hit the little arrow down, and it just popped it out. You don't need to do that, but it just kind of sets it in place. But the thing with the linking the planes is you have to set, if you want your planes to be linked at 15 feet apart on plane number 1. So for example, if I go to plane 1 and I do my transforms, I have to set it in here first, okay, and then do my plane 2. So I have to do one at a time and then link those sections together. Now, linking sections, they will only go parallel with each other. Okay, I can't do plane top and plane front at the same time. It doesn't really work. It's only planes that are parallel with each other. So front, back, left, right, top, and bottom. Okay, so that's how you can kind of move around the building in other ways too. Is if you wanted to go up to level 2 and you didn't have something sectioned off, you could just create a section view, cut level 2 off, go in there. The biggest one we use is honestly, I always stick to just plane number 1. And I'll show you why I stick to that in a second, because you can do everything. You can basically have 6 planes with 1 plane, and I'll kind of explain that here in a second. But once you have your building sectioned off and how you want to do it, you don't really have to play with other sections unless you're moving to another area. But really, that plane 1 is to kind of get you just below the roof where you can see all the MEP and nothing else. Okay. Now, if you notice, as soon as I click on link section planes, my alignment column is now what it says custom on it. So now that plane 1 is no longer top; it's now a custom view. Okay. But I don't want it to just be a custom view, so I'm gonna change it back to top and turn my link off. Okay. So now if I move it, now I'm just moving my top plane once again. Right. I'm on rotate, not move. Right now I'm just moving my top view. Okay, I'm actually gonna change that back to 0. And then I'll change it to top. Anytime you change the rotation, it changes it. So now it's a custom, it's no longer top. Okay. What I like to do, if everybody wants to just zoom into a section on the building, doesn't matter where you zoom in. I'm gonna just go on the southwest corner right here. If I go to my plane 1, I've got everything else turned off. I'm gonna turn off plane 2, and I just have plane 1. Under alignment, you'll notice how there are some other options at the very bottom. So you have your top, bottom, front, back, left, right, align to view, and align to surface. Now, the main one that we're going to talk about the most is this align to surface, and that basically allows me to whatever surface I click on, it will create my section to that surface. So, for example, I've got this wall right here off to my left portion of my screen. It's kind of at like a 33-degree angle, kind of off center of what the building is at. If I wanted to, for some reason, look just into that wall, I could do align to surface. I can now click on that surface, and it will move everything in. The downside to this, usually why I use, I don't use number 1, I use number 2, because then I can still have my top of my building cut into. If you notice, as soon as I click on that side, it brought everything over, but it also got rid of my top view, right? So I like to usually have 2, but I also like to have 2 as customs. So like I'll have custom 1, which will be whatever, and then plane 2 will also be a custom. So for example, if I wanted to cut into the 2nd floor, I could come in here. Let's say I wanted to be flat with that beam right there. I could turn on 2 and change it to align to surface. And now my building is cutting 2 custom sections. So now instead of having to do my top, I can have my whatever be my whatever. And as long as I know that I'm on plane 2, I can change my custom, I can just keep going back and forth. So now the architect's like, oh, I actually want to view into there. I can be like, okay, no problem. Let me just change my section. And now we can kind of view into that wall cavity. The reason this is really good is if you're looking at plumbing chases and you want to look into the chase and see how much room they have, you're like, oh, can we look into that chase? You can just click the chase and kind of move forward instead of having to figure out where your section is way off in space and drag it all the way up to it. You can just kind of click on it right there, just cuts it in half.